Oh my God, we're here and welcome to Entmoot Live. Greetings, boom. Entmoot Live, we're on, and this is another big day. I can't even, it's only been a week since we last did a major announcement live and review. Was it a week? It was literally 7 days ago today. We did the new Mesbg edition was announced. We had Alex and Jack for that one. May I introduce my guests? Once again, it's Alex from Battlecamper. Greetings.
Howdy. Good evening.
Hello. And Jmacc from Jmacc's Armies of Middle Earth.
Armies of Middle Earth.
You've got to learn the names.
That's like step one. Got to write them down. Apologies. But it's all very exciting. I'm going to be here, and it's going to be big day.
John, did you just see what Harry did, by the way? He just swapped your face for his face so that your face gets covered up by the Entmoot Live.
That's absolutely fine. I can just do this. Hello.
Very cheeky.
I need to get my microphone is here, so I do need to get
Sorry, there's one thing that's really bothering me is there's one pixel below Harry's name between the name tag and the bottom of the camera. One pixel line, and it's doing my OCD in.
Is there? It's not showing that on mine.
No, I can't see that either.
Can anyone else see that?
Great start to the stream. All this stuff, but I mean, so there's already 30-something comments getting excited about what's going on. I've alluded to it.
About the pixel line.
No, no. To the news of today, of course, being that. Well, it's hard to really summarize this. Obviously, we knew that there was a new edition coming, and everyone would have been fools to think that nothing would change. And yet now change has been announced, and everyone's losing their minds. And I'm kind of one of them. I'll be honest. I'm not sure I'm happy about this. Is this the burning of Mesbg? Is this the end?
Sayonara.
Are we signing out? Is that it? You did not call it, Jay.
I did call it.
We'll get to that later. Why?
You absolutely did not. That is scandalous. I'm going to dig up the audio for the podcast. Obviously, people don't know what we're talking about. John made a stupid bet based on a grain of truth. He'd obviously got a bit of rumor, extrapolated wildly to suggest that all the miniatures that aren't in the box are disappearing forever.
Absolutely.
And now thinks me and Harry owe him £10 each, and we emphatically don't.
You emphatically do.
I'll happily buy you a beer, John, but not.
Don't give in to him.
Right.
Don't give him an inch.
Right.
Give him an inch. You'll take a mile.
Indeed. Right.
It's my birthday as well, so I'll take that pint.
Oh. I'll give you a 10 for your birthday, but that's
Oh yes.
So first, title and thumbnail, Chef's Kiss, says Ryan Coops. Thank you. It was clickbaiting, I'll admit it, but I did add a question mark to the thumbnail,
that
so it wasn't categorical. Is this the end? It was a. Oh no! This is the end. Is this the end? Burning of the Mesbg? Question mark. Then we've got who's this? Snowy Facebook groups and Reddit doomsayers are pissing me off. All of them talking about staying on the current edition can do so. I'm sure the GBHL will have all of 0 events for them. Oh, that's straight out.
I don't know about that.
Hot topic. Let's before we go into all the comments, because a lot of people will know, obviously, but I guess it's worth addressing exactly what we're here for, because there was a Warhammer community article earlier on today, which hinted at some of the many changes. And what I wanted to do was basically just have a bit of a cycle through some of these lines that are mentioned in this strategy battle game article, which talks about some of the things that are definitely going to change in the next edition. And I guess I'm going to work through them chronologically. So hopefully people will know that the big ones are coming up. But I want to get through a few of the little ones early on. So I've made some notes. I've written some things down. So a couple of things that perhaps aren't the most egregious of changes, but may affect some people, are the changes to the in the way chart. I mean, should we have a 15-minute long discussion about this change? What do you think?
No, I don't.
I think in 3 years I've used an in the way value of not 4+, maybe twice.
Yeah,
it's not a big issue.
It's a strange
through
one,
windows.
And if it's kind of thing, if you like, I would still sometimes, if we were at a tournament where it's not particularly competitive, we're just having a laugh, and there was a really cool fortification, and I'd be like, oh, should we treat that as an in the way 5+? It's just not. It just isn't a big deal.
Yeah, and people, I have had people say, "Oh, well, I think that's a fence, so that's a 3+ in the way," and I'm like, sure. Why
Yeah,
not?
exactly.
Like,
but
very rarely.
99% of the time, I mean, as the article noted, I think it was interesting. It said a lot of people just don't acknowledge it anyway. The only times I've ever even acknowledged it is when someone's like been like, it's not even been, oh, you know, you've got to get a 5 for that, or you've got to get 3. It's like, well, interestingly, I think technically it's always been like, technically that should be that, but obviously we're not doing that. So
exactly. But it's actually something that probably is worth just dropping because nobody uses it anyway. So
yeah, absolutely.
The next thing, binning special strikes. So this is another thing that is being suggested for the new edition. Well, it's not just suggested; they're telling us that they're going to get rid of them. I think this
isn't a consultation, Harry.
No, there's no such thing as a democracy. It's an autocracy or whatever the other one is. And people say that special strikes slow the game down. I'm not convinced I'm not convinced that's true. But I am surprised at this change because I quite like a special strike. I don't know what you guys think. What do people think in the comments?
Well, fainting for me is massive for my elves, so I'm not going to get to do that anymore.
Yeah,
but that's a huge nerf to elves, like no fainting.
Well, but that depends on the other changes, doesn't it? Because if all elves are now suddenly strength 4,
I doubt. It's potentially nerf. I initially was quite sad about it, and I think on balance, I'd still rather have kept them than left them. But I was chatting in another group, and you know, people were like, it typically works because I don't agree that they necessarily slow the game down. But that's because typically, I think what people do is say, well, I've got this category of model, like axes, for example. If I've got my Rohan, I've got maybe 3 or 4 axes in amongst the Rohan.
Yes.
And when I'm fighting with them, I will be doing piercing strike, or when I'm fighting with my elves, I've got the spears in the back line, the swords at the front. I will be fainting with all the swords because I've got the fight at the back anyway. And this chat, the conclusion was, well, therefore it's not actually that interesting. A sort of like fight by fight. What am I going to do? Am I going to stab? Am I going to piercing strike? It tends to just be like, well, it's just an extra roll or an extra special rule.
Well, I like to have like a flail elf at the end of my lines, and I can have 2 pikes behind them.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit of fun. It's a bit different. It means that a model with an axe actually means something. I quite like the fact, I never used to decide how many axes or swords I'd have in my Rohan when I took them. I just rock up, like, well, there's 4 axes amongst the models I've brought, so I've got 4 axes.
I think this is a trend that we're going to see with the rest of the announcements. It feels to me like it's targeting not casual gamers, but competitive gamers.
I was going to say that, but I think it's quite worrying that it's going to be like 40k, and it's going to focus the rules on like the top 5% of players.
But isn't that the other way around? In 40k, they focused on making it more competitive.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry, the other way around. So that it's all getting focused towards like tournaments and events, but the majority of people don't go to tournaments or events. They just play with friends, and it's an incredible narrative set of rules, and they're removing narrative elements from it, like the special strikes. It's quite a narrative thing. And if we go to like 40.
Sorry, John.
No, you go.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But I think the opposite. They seem to be driving toward narrative. Again, that one change does seem to
I'd say remove special strikes makes it.
No, I agree with you. I agree, but what I'm saying is, I don't think it's like 40k where all the changes are driven toward that objective.
And also changing the different shoot values and the ways, that's less narrative. It's just 1 now. It's nothing different.
Yeah, again, it just makes let's not pretend. I think we can't draw an equivalence between what's happening.
Set legendary legions. That's that's not narrative. Yeah, I can't go. I want to do this first stage thing, but I can't do that anymore.
That's the worst change for me.
But everything in it is getting away from that.
I think, just because some people have been commenting specifically on the special strikes. Michael says, "I've never worn to special strikes, to be honest." Scott says, "I'm positive about the removal of special strikes. It's thinking time." I assume that's what he says. Think time, or maybe he thinks it's time.
Sounds like a skill issue. In the game.
No, I don't think that's fair. All right, John. You see, this is my show here. Don't you be abusing our good viewers here.
Yeah, I know.
I think. Go on.
No, sorry, Harry. I was just the only point I was going to make, because I don't think it's a big loss. I think my baseline point was, I think on balance I'd have preferred them to stay, but I don't really care. And when there are people saying like, "Oh, this is like it's like what they're doing to 40k," sorry, that's not my impression of you, John. Although it is, it's the exact words.
Scottish, but
it's like we can't draw a comparison between what's changed in 40k and what's changing in.
I can see where you're coming from, though, John. It seems like a solution to a problem that only exists at the top tables of some very niche tournaments.
I'd say special strikes at the top tables doesn't. It's faster because people know what to do and when to do it. It's at the kind of middle tables, I think.
Yeah, maybe you're right. David, welcome, Mr. Sweeting, says, not sure how I feel about special strikes going. On one hand, it's a cool customizable thing, nice little way to change the pace of killing/dying. Snowy doesn't use the special strikes. Frederick says, I feel like special strikes have been a bit too much, so maybe making it hero only would have been a reasonable idea. Yeah, fair. Scott says, positive about the removal. I think they'll be replaced with more bespoke character-specific rules. I think SS can be confusing for newer players. I think that's true. David says, on the other hand, you have people saying, all my goblins have axes and goblin town and stuff like that. Yeah. Golem's gamers are in. I assume it's Elliot. Greetings. I definitely argue that removing special strikes is something that's trying to cater towards more casual players, not competitive ones. That's good. Interesting. By the way, we'll get onto alliances in a minute. Tom Armo, greetings. I think Will summed it up. Will Champion made a post on Facebook saying it's not held to die, and I think I agree with that.
It's like a huge nerf to Far Harad. You can't stun anymore.
Well, it's like Harry said, only if nothing comes to take it.
Oh yeah, sorry.
And that's what I was going to move on to next. Is Sam's frying pan.
Always wondered, why would they give the Sam model a frying pan in his hand and not let you wang people with it?
What people with it?
Wang them. You've got to wang people with it. Wang them. WANG, John. Wang them.
It's interesting. Sorry, I'm just
not hearing.
Because it sounds to me like, so, I mean, I'll read the direct quote here. Sam can now use his frying pan in combat. Lurtz can potentially shrug off wounds, and Isildur can potentially wield the shards of Narsil should Elendil be slain. So it feels like, and maybe those are the sort of the tip of the iceberg here, that we're going to get a lot maybe some more spicy things that are specific to characters or specific to certain races that might be able to do, like your feint. We might still have feint, but it might just be an elven rule rather than an everyone rule or something like that. Because actually, I can believe elves fainting, but can you believe? I don't know. I'm trying to give a good example. A Minister of Warrior fainting against a goblin, or because they're slightly high fat. That sort of stuff.
Just make all elven things elven made. That would be great, please. So elven made shields and spears. That'd be lovely.
Maybe. What do we think about this idea of having more sort of character-specific special rules?
So I think that
sounds great.
It is great, and you know me, I'm a theming player. I have two slight concerns. The first is that I don't play the narrative missions in the books. One thing I like, and I've seen this comment a lot, and I do agree that it's a slight concern. I like the idea that I'm taking the factions from the books, but I'm having my battles with them. That I'm not just always trying to replicate the 3 or 4 battles that that are in the films from each faction. It's like, oh look, we're doing the Pelennor again kind of thing. So I don't need them to pander to me and be like, well, you will play how the story transpires in the films. You will play how the story transpires in the books. You will play those games over and over and over again. So I don't want it to get so hyper-focused. I want it to be a flexible rule set that allows you to play your own headcanons and your own stories and things like that. And it's a bit sort of like feeds into the board gamification if they try and tell you how to play it in order to fit with what they say is canonical. The second thing is that some of the fluffier rules, some of the ones that are really specific to what happens in the films already, I think are some of the worst ones. So I take, for example, the way that, Theoden and Aemma and Eowyn interact with each other. It's really, really annoying. And it's like, great, if those were rules that existed in a narrative scenario, it would make complete sense. Theoden's killed and Eowyn's got to make her way over and stand by his corpse for the rest of the game. That would make sense. But when that's happened for the, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th time in any game, it starts just not really to make sense anymore and to be a bit frustrating. And I don't want them to try and eke out sort of this themey gameplay at the expense of the armies working as just armies.
As a game, because as you say, like you say, this is a game and it's a strategy battle game, rather than a necessary. That obviously there are scenarios, and you're right. I think the scenarios should remain separate in some way from the game. I do worry, and that's the next point that I think most people would want us to talk about. is that every army is to become a legendary legion. So I'll take this quote and I'll see what you think about this. It says the current edition introduced legendary legions. ... These proved to be wildly popular with fans
because they're really powerful.
Yeah, that's what I wonder.
I don't know
whether...
anyone that really likes them. I know like 2 people.
No, I don't.
Who is he interviewing? Is this the same as the one game they used to play Test Vanquishers? So like, what they asked one person and went, "Oh, yeah, very popular."
Well, no, I think they do show up at tournaments all the time.
I think that's the issue.
That's because they're really powerful.
But do people like them, or do they use it?
Are they popular, or is this just because actually either A, they're really good in game, or B, that actually they're just stuff that people wanted to do.
I can't remember
Riders of
Men of
is
the
a very
West.
good example.
I want to see Men of the West.
Yeah,
it'd be like putting like roadworks out on the M25 and then be like, oh my god, there are so many people trying to use the M25. They're queuing up for the M25. They must absolutely love roadworks. These roadworks have turned out to be wildly popular. We'll just have them going forward for everything. Everything will be roadworks all the time forever.
Morgan has just put a good point. So popular, entire GBHL tournaments sometimes decide to say no legendary legions. That is true. There are plenty that allow them, of course, as well. But Gabriel does point out, I think we should withhold judgment until we see some of these lists. Well, then what would we talk about for the next hour?
We must speculate.
Yes,
let's
speculate
until
we drive ourselves into some sort of frenzy.
Great episode, guys.
No, I see what you're saying there, Gabriel. It is interesting, but I think it's a great opportunity to have a bit of a chat about all these stuff.
Gabriel, you've got to remember that this is how content creators validate themselves as humans. If we weren't doing this, we'd have just either gone to sleep or died. So we're really this is keeping us going. It's sustaining our life energy.
MN Werewolf says, I love atmospheric armies, but combining an alliance is also great. It will be boring if this is missing, because now there were an impossible number of combinations. So I think it's sort of implying that there used to be an incredible number of combinations of stuff. Now it sounds like it might be a bit more restrictive. Do you think that's the case? Do you think it will be more restrictive?
Yes, 100%.
It even sounds like they concede it from the wording in the article. It seems like that's because they're like, don't worry, you can still make concoctions. But does that mean we're never going to have certain characters playing with one another? And also, how are some of them even going to fit in? I mean, Saruman never playing with one. Yes, wanging each other. They're going to wang each other again. Will I never ever be able to get Lurtz and Ugluk in an army? Saruman and Shaku.
Because we don't see Ugluk in the Fellowship of the Ring, do we? So I think he's meant to be there. But
all right, okay. Well, Saruman and Shaku then.
But exactly.
Twins and Elrond.
I think the twins are an example. I think we'll come back to in a bit, because that's sort of a slightly one of the more worrying things for me. So it specifically says, for players that like to find the most potent combinations, fear not. Many of these army lists will still provide an ample opportunity for you to try out your combinations and see what you can come up with. It doesn't sound the same as, and part of me is like, yay, that might mean that we don't see Witch King Suladan armies, and we don't see some of the more egregious mixes of Gwyer here and Galadriel and all those lot, which I think might be a good thing. But it also sounds like it might make the competitive game a little more likely to become stale quicker.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you had a game where every army was full of, had a full roster, then maybe that makes sense. It's something they did in 40k. They had 8th edition, and there was these lists that were just everything souped together. And they decided that they'd clamp down on that, and it worked. And I do think that made for a better game. But because you could still do it, you could still do it, but there was quite a lot of deficit that came with that. But that's because each list was a full roster, each army was a full roster. I'm not quite sure how they're going to manage that if they're trying to frame each list around a particular scene in the film. But I will obviously reserve judgment. Might well be wrong, but I would be concerned. It's like, oh look, it's. I mean, I already get that like that with the Legendary Legions. It's like it's this Legion again. One of the best tournaments I went to was Unnumbered Tiers, because it was just like they just said no Legions, and you saw armies that you wouldn't normally see, and you saw combinations you wouldn't normally see. And even if I get trounced by them, I'd rather that than just the same 4 or 5 Legions at the tables over and over again.
Yeah, I'll probably get to like it'll be like a 3-way circle where, you know, rock, paper, scissors. There'll be 3 Legions, and that's all you'll see.
It's a great comment from Dave earlier. Sorry, I missed this. So Keir Starmer, Chair Emergency Cobra meeting in reaction to today's MESBG news. Great.
Parliament. I wish it was that popular.
Yeah. Interesting. So, I mean, so I'm not 100%. I think this has the potential for being poor, but it will very much depend for me on whether if this Legendary Legion is literally the charge at Helm's Deep, and then the assault on Helm's Deep and the defense of Helm's Deep, and then, you know, I don't know, and then the next one being the defense of Minas Tirith and the Pelennor Fields, and like if it's all like that, if it's more like the defense of Gondor or the defense of Osgiliath, or like, you know what I mean, like it depends how wide these Legendary Legions are.
Yeah.
And are there ways of still dropping in if there might be like a dropping in some random, I don't know, it's all
going to be film as well, no book ones.
Yeah, well, it sounds like because if they're not in a book or the film, then it's going to be not going to happen, is it? Because they don't do Legendary Legions about. I mean, like they've made up.
Like, how if they do the Pelennor, will it have fiefdoms or will?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, they have to find a way of getting them in, and that's one of the things I'm wondering whether on the junior writers it was like, right, guy, you need to find a way of getting the fiefdoms into a legion, and they're like, for fuck's sake, now like what scenario do I concoct in which I can put them with a list that works? The same thing. I hate to keep going back to Isengard, but obviously I do like them. I have a soft spot for them. But you know, what does Saruman go in an Isengard list? He's not in a Legion at the moment.
Yeah,
and it makes sense that he's not in a Legion at the moment, because actually
defense of Isengard.
Yeah,
it's him and some orcs.
Yeah, him and
some orcs.
Yeah, which
except he has a special rule where he's got to stay in his tower, basically.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah,
and he never actually fights anyone in the films except Gandalf the Grey, briefly. So
maybe it'll be the Legendary Legions, Saruman and Grima, in which
and that's it,
and or Grima.
Frederick says the article sounds like the Allies Matrix is gone entirely. I think that's exactly what we're hearing. Yeah, I think that's what it says. So it sounds like you can't ally anything to anything unless they're implying somehow legions are going to ally with each other.
Yeah, I mean they've got, because it doesn't say everything's Legendary Legions, does it? It says that. There's got to be a way of.
Well, it says now every. Let me just correct you there, Alex. It says now every army list will be presented in the same manner as Legendary Legions, ensuring that every army fits the theme of Middle Earth. So, I mean, I suppose could that mean that each army list will combine with each other? But it doesn't sound like that, because currently a Legendary Legion is one page and it's got a list of the things you can put in this, and it's got a compulsory leader. And it's specifically saying ensuring every army fits the theme of Middle Earth, and that to me is pretty clearly getting rid of the Allies Matrix. And Carnate says there could still be a more generic legion for each faction that we have now. So maybe, but I don't know. So maybe there's like a pure Isengard legion.
Yeah.
Which then you couldn't ally with anything. And then to allow you to ally stuff, it would only be Isengard allied with, I don't know, Mordor for that one sequence with the Ugluk scouts. And
so that's my main fear. Like I said, I mean, just so people don't, because I'm still very positive about this edition. I don't massively care about the special strikes. I don't massively care about the in the way table, stuff like that. But my fear is that I'm going to be told. I don't like organized fun. I don't like being told how to play. And I don't like the idea that I've got my Isengard collection, I've got my Rohan collection, and it's like, oh, sorry, that character can't go with that character anymore. That if there's no way to do it, that would be a real bummer. If I can't have, I don't know, if Rumil and Haldir is not there's just or Rumil and Elrond, which seems like, you know, I've got my Rivendell army and my Lothlorien army painted in the same scheme, based in the same way, because, you know, I played them together. it sounds like maybe that's just not a thing anymore.
Interesting. Jakey says, the way it's worded, it's set out in the same manner. It could be factions with a specific time period, if that makes sense. So you couldn't have LSR and Denethor, but they would be different legendary legions. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it's just, I think the fear of the unknown is getting to us, isn't it? And that's perhaps one of the big issues. I'll just quickly run through. I've saved people who haven't read your comments. I've saved some for later because I know we're going to come up to them. Glyn says multiple Noldor lists, e.g., Eregion led by Gil-galad or Rivendell, each list aligning with different ones instead of faction allies. Yeah, maybe. No more alliances of goblins with Mordor, Isengard with Mordor, etc. We all know Adam Troke would burn down GWHQ if Imrahil was bin. Well, this is true for long-term fans of the game. Adam Troke, former Middle Earth manager and basically the writer of the new edition or the recent edition of the book. He's a big fan of Imrahil, and I can't see them binning book-related miniatures, although we will get to that.
Of course, that's been imposed upon them.
Yeah, well, maybe, but I can't see why they would. I don't know, maybe.
I mean, remember every game and everything they've done recently has always come with a round of binning stuff, and I doubt that any of the game's creators have decided to do that. I'm assuming that management has said, well, these sell the least or whatever, or these are the most expensive to make, or these molds are the oldest.
Dan Munn asked a question about the Burdur Legendary Legion from the new Angmar book, which again we'll come to in a bit. But battle streams in Middle Earth, I assume that's Damien. Greetings. I think we should stop saying all Legendary Legions and instead think of it as all army lists, just without allies. I suspect there will be chuffing tons of them. They just won't be able to merge. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think maybe us three are all on the same page here. That I quite like the idea of merging stuff occasionally, because it feels like then you're coming up with something you've come up with rather than just taking a box off the shelf they've told you to buy and this is the army. I quite like to mix the Golden King of Abrakan with, I don't know, Sharku and his row or whatever, because it's not impossible that it would happen, but equally,
so I like to try and recreate things from different time periods and stuff which you can't do. Like Lothlorien and Khazad were famous historical allies, but now you can't. Probably not going to be able to do that. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, that's the strange thing, isn't it? It does to me seem like it's and I think the point is taken that we don't know. So but we are speculating, and that's fine. If this stream just turns out to be completely wrong, we can just expunge it. But if it is what we fear it is, then my concern is that it's a solution in search of a problem, because there already is a myriad of ways in which people play, even within the competitive scene. You get really competitive tournaments where it's just restrictions are as they set out in the books. In that case, fine. And there are others where they say green allies only, or even single lists only, or where you're massively rewarded from going for a single list. So, for example, I'm going to Of Dice and Men in a couple of weeks' time, and in that, you get huge buffs for drawing not just from a single list, but from a non-legendary legion single list. And so there's already ways that TOs encourage you to play in a themey way. Of course, that if you don't go to tournaments and you want to just play through the scenarios in the books, then they already, they force you to play in a themey way, because that's the whole point of them, and they tell you what models to take. So I'm just not sure what problem's being solved. But I do feel like you lose something. You lose a bit of the creativity.
It sounds to me like the things that reading between the lines is the stuff that happens at the top tables of the tournaments, where you get your allies of Galadriel and the Gwaihir and whatever, or your Witch King Suladan or whatever or the dropping the Spider Queen into our armies, and all of those sorts of things that you do see at the top tables, and you see at the competitive in the competitive game. It feels like those are the things that the team don't want to see anymore, and I don't know.
Why?
I feel like
why not?
Well,
whatever happened to
I can
them crack on.
Maybe they think that that's a toxic way for the game to go, and it's not really Lord of the Ringsy or whatever. But it's interesting. So I think we've kind of covered that a bit. There's a couple of small ones before we get into the big stuff. The fight value rebalance. I think this one is actually really good.
Yeah, I've been asking for that for ages.
Yeah, so that the idea being that pretty much there's, for a long time, for some reason, there's been sort of an artificial cap of fight 6 pretty much for most things, and then occasionally get a fight 7. I don't think there really is anything that's fight 8, or maybe Ents, and that's about it. And then 9 for Gil-galad, and then 10, and that's it. But like very few things are in, so they're going to spread it out a bit. And I don't know what you think. But I think
you should put it up to like 12 or 15, so there's more non-numbers.
Maybe there's a bit more variance would help, but they specifically say it's gonna
just everything was fight 4 or 5 really. Like everything was.
Yeah.
Every army had pretty much access to fight 5. So easy to get.
It's going to be. I'm gonna guess that this is going to require a big points rejiggle because
I think
if you think the baseline Rohan warrior or whatever was always 8 points, and that's fight 3, strength 3, defense 4, or whatever it was, like it's going to rejig everything. Like, is a goblin still going to be 5 points? Is all that sort of stuff? I think
that's a good thing, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it, but it could mean that your elves are really expensive, and you might have far too many, I'm fine
with that. I mean, they're meant to be an elite force, although it does come back to my point from the last stream, which is that the more you pay for fight in certain matchups, of course, there's a huge surplus cost, and I still think that a better way to resolve it would be to have some kind of bonus for being double the opponent's fight or more. But whatever. The point is, I still think it's a really good change, and I think a bit more glad.
Yeah, definitely. That double the fight thing would be really good.
I'm still because the thing with the fight value is that if you're surrounded by 4 models, it doesn't matter what fight value are if you don't roll a 6. So because you'll die. So like if you're paying even more of a premium for that high fight elf than you were before because it's higher fight value, you're still going to have the same chances of getting a 6.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That's
what I'm saying. If you're an elf surrounded by 4 elite human warriors, you expect to have less of a chance than if you're an elf surrounded by 4 goblins. But for some reason, you have exactly the same chance in both scenarios. And so now, if say elves get more fight and charge more points for that, they're not actually getting anything in that situation. But again, that's just a tiny nitpick. And besides which, we don't know what rules elves are going to get. Maybe they're going to get something to help them deal with that kind of situation.
Exactly. It's interesting. I just think there's obviously the reason this is all causing such faff is because it's one page and we don't really know what's going on. But it feels very unsettling. But that's why we're here. One of the other things that before we get into the big stuff, new intelligence characteristic for spotting things like ring bearers. So I think this is really interesting because the general stat line of a model hasn't changed since the very first edition. Like it's always had.
No, it's been the same.
Stuff. So they're now going to add a number. The big question here is, where's the number going to go? Is it going to go between courage and wounds? Is it going to go between the fate and the might and the stuff?
I think it'll be before courage.
Yes, it's not something you spend, is it? It's gonna go. This is the big question.
This is genuinely. I was thinking in the books, like, where's the number going to go, and how confusing will it be?
Getting onto the actual point. It is good though, isn't it? Like, because you're right. You can have an intelligent coward, and you can have a
stupid.
Yes, a willing participant. In fact, sometimes because you're an idiot, that's exactly why you're going to get yourself into all kind of heaps of trouble. Too few games have an intelligence characteristic, and I given that MESBG is a game that lends itself to slightly more RPG-ish kind of gameplay and scenarios, I think an intelligence characteristic is a huge boon, and it's going to let people play it a lot more creatively.
In between fight and shoot. That's so good. Excellent. It's that line that's cutting the little thing. Go ahead, Morgan. Thank you. I think this seems like a good idea. How it works, God knows, but it seems like a smart idea to me. John, did you have anything? Very good. Did you have anything to add for this, or did you just want to get stuck into the next?
No, I'm quite happy. We went to intelligence. It does seem a bit weird. They're like, we want to make things simpler, and now they're adding a new characteristic.
That is true. I mean, I'm guessing this intelligence characteristic will be very rarely used. I mean, it literally in only a few
But then
situations.
people could say that about Celestial Strikes. Like, they're very rarely used.
I mean, that's the logic they use to get rid of some certain things, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm happy for it.
Okay, cool. So now this is the biggie. This is there's 2 or 3 things that are biggie still to go, but this is the big chunk that I think a lot of people have gone a bit AWOL about. So it says, I'll read the quote. Upon the release of the new edition, 2 supplements will be available: Armies of the Lord of the Rings and Armies of the Hobbit. The Hobbit TM. Each of these will focus solely on the heroes, villains, warriors, creatures, and armies from their respective films. What about anything that isn't directly in the films, we hear you cry? Fear not, young Hobbit. An additional supplement will be released a short while later entitled Armies of Middle Earth, which will focus on any profiles that do not feature in the films themselves. So, I mean, at first it sounds like we're going to lose some stuff straight away, right? That we're not going to be able to use some models in the new edition.
Yeah, but it's a good excuse to get rid of things that they never made models for. So, they invented the Runish War Drake and then never bothered to make a model for it and just went, it's good.
I mean, yeah, that's true. But, yeah, I mean, but I don't know. I find this as a collector, I find this like this feels like this sort of slippery slope to doing what they did at one point with, I think it was Age of Sigmar and Fantasy, where they sort of, I think that some armies were like, oh, they were in the old world and they died, but we're going to let you play with them in the Age of Sigmar world. Here's a sort of PDF, and you can use them, but we're never going to update it.
What's the thing they did? 40K.
Someone hasn't been through this before, can't you?
Yeah.
It's
like 40K with the, what is it called? Alex knows the name.
Legend stuff.
That's the words. Yeah.
They've been through round after round of that. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's such a powerful range. You've just got to reserve. You've got to reserve judgment to see. I mean, I potentially don't really care. It depends what goes. I care for other people. I know. I get that I have different priorities for the people, and it's going to make some people sad. I try to when I read this, because I know there was a lot of upset about the stuff in this chunk, and I know that Harry, you potentially got some quite strong feelings about the stuff in this chunk.
Absolutely, I do.
I think this is the bit that I care least about. I think that
you're just heartless.
I know. I'm just a joyless person, Harry. That's the problem.
Okay, so let me
explain.
Sorry, you go first, and then I'll tell you why you're wrong. Go on.
Yeah, that's fine. There you go. When you get it right, you've got.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that you're on the other side of this, Alex.
Again, it's not that I don't. It's not that I'm. It's not that I don't care. I am annoyed about things like the idea of having to carry 2 books and buy 2 books because you've got to get the Armies of Middle Earth and the Armies of Lord of the Rings to play the same army. That's really annoying. Stuff like this. But in my head, whenever we go through a new edition, and like I said, there is always this nonsense every single time in any game I play and any game that launches, like the Old World and stuff like that. I know that there's 2 sides. There's the creative side and there's the business side. And these decisions are all falling within the business side. And generally they're stuff that is not going to have a permanent impact on the game. It's not the stuff that fundamentally impacts my gameplay. It's little annoyances. It's things because Games Workshop, capitalism, fuck you kind of thing. But actually, it annoys me a lot less than when I think they get the creative side of things wrong. Because once I've got my head in the game and I'm absorbed in it and I've lost myself in it, which is the whole point, the business side of the things is the stuff that all just gets brushed aside anyway, and I don't think about it anymore. I'm not going to think about the fact I've got 2 books, or the fact that there was a gap between getting Armies of Lord of the Rings and getting Armies of Middle Earth, or the fact that some models I was never going to buy anyway have left the range. It's just not going to be in my brain.
I just think the one of the big issues for me is that it's the game. What I've loved so much about the Middle Earth strategy Battlecamper over the years is the models have never become defunct, any of them. Like, you've always been able to use that collection you had from 20 years ago, which I granted, for people like you, Alex, who've joined it a bit more recently, you think some of those old models are crap, and they're, and then they are, and they are. But what I like the idea, that there's nostalgia for those old models, but I like the idea that they would slowly replace those bad models with better versions, which they have been doing. The heroes first. I thought they would go heroes, then old troops, and then we'd feel in a much better place. But it sounds more like going, what we're going to do, those metal Khazad-dum dwarves, they're not in the movies, bye. And Vault Wardens, or King Barlin, these classic, like some of the oldest miniatures in the range, after the movies basically, are now potentially going to be binned. or like put in a separate category that feels like it's kind of an afterthought category. And it means that, the first edition, we won't be able to play with our dwarves. Like, and as soon as this thing comes along, well, because it says that the Hobbit and Army or Lord of the Rings films are coming first, and then the Middle Earth book will come later. So I assume it'll be quite quick, because the Armies of the Hobbit, I think, came a couple of months after the Armies of the Lord of the Rings in the current edition. So there was a gap for people who wanted.
Well, you say that, but the Angmar supplement's taken so long; it's now going to be defunct after a month.
Yeah,
and I will say, it were in the old world, we're 9 months in or whatever it is, and we're still waiting for like more than half the armies to have their own books. But like I said, for me, it's just the fact that will be a memory that will be gone, and I will just soon I'll be able to enjoy it. But I do take huge sympathy with. I genuinely do. I'm not trying to brush aside the idea that losing models isn't painful, or that because it's not my priority, it's not a genuine priority to other people. And if you've got models that are going to go in, if it is the Khazad range, for example, or whatever else, and you've got a big army you're very fond of and went into Legends, I would find that extremely painful. So I do take the point completely.
I've got 3,000 points of Khazad.
Yeah. I mean, so that would hurt. That would hurt.
Yeah.
For sure.
There's a few people. So Red Fox, 100% with Harry. Great.
You just can read up.
I'm a lawyer. I can afford all the books. Is all I'm hearing right now. Alex's lack.
I trained in a charity.
Alex's lack of sympathy can get in the
fire. I was specific.
To be fair, that comment was a bit earlier. So Legends PDF. Oh yeah, the legacy. That we'll get into the legacy bit in a second. Damien says Legend thing sucks. It obviously sucks, but beyond one or two small profiles, it's never happened before in 23 years. With new Arno, Angmar, and War of the Ring. War of the Rohirrim, stuff coming. We're sadly overdue a call. I think that you point out exactly why I find this really frustrating, is because I think I've placed a lot of faith in the Middle Earth team to hold on to the range, and they've constantly promised it. Like, they've always said, we will have a profile a model for every profile we have. And now they're deleting some profiles, essentially, or it sounds like they may be moving them into a different category, and it's like kind of not good. But it just sounds to me like, you're gonna. I don't know. Maybe that's right. Maybe 23 years. Maybe that is it. But it just feels to me like there's now like a second tier of stuff that they don't care about simply because it was not in the films. It was in the book.
I'm pretty sure it's probably all licensing issues.
It could well be.
Yeah.
So I think because we haven't really touched on the legacy bit specifically. It says the Middle Earth game has been going strongly for 20 years. As a result, that's had years of profiles and miniatures. Some older profiles will have to go and make way. These will not feature in any of the supplements. However, they will feature in the Legacies of Middle Earth PDF, which will be available to download for free at the same time as the Armies of Middle Earth. And it will contain updated rules for all the profiles fit with the new edition, and we'll have a selection of army lists for you to use those profiles in. While profiles and armies lists in the Legacy Middle Earth will not be legal for official Games Workshop run Middle Earth strategy battle game events, tournament organisers are still welcome to use them in their own independent tournaments or gaming weekends.
That means people will just allow it anyway, because
I don't know. It just feels like, the stuff that I absolutely, some of the things I absolutely love about the game are the sort of the expansions that happened with the creative people at Games Workshop, like Matt Ward, who I spoke to recently on the YouTubes, and he was sort of loving the fact that the Games Workshop had the sort of the license and the kind of imagination to fill in some of those gaps in the races and in the Lord of the Rings sort of back catalogue or the lore that meant that you could have things like the Kandish or the Far Harad or the even stuff in Harad, and it's like not really clear which of those things will now make it into the thing, because I don't know, does the mention of Wayne Riders in the Tolkien Legendarium mean that means that Kandish will continue, or does that mean
no? Wayne Riders are not the same as Cand.
Are they not? Are they not the same thing?
No.
Well, I don't really know.
The Variags of Cand are mentioned in the pillar.
All right, Variags of Cand. So is that enough, or will they still be legacy? Who knows? This is the thing, and the same with Far Harad. I know half trolls are probably for the bin, aren't they? Because
there's only so much value in speculating. Harry, you're working yourself into a panic. You need to take a breath. Yeah.
Like I genuinely think like if they get rid of like full all of Khazad, that'll be like
of course.
I don't think they're going to. I don't think they are going to get rid of full
faction. Control all delete. It would be very upsetting, but we don't know yet, do we?
Yeah, and I think that's probably unlikely. Yeah. Red Fox fears for Canned, Wosis, Abracam Guard, Watchers of Karna. Yeah, so do I. Dunland. What about Dunland? Might be bin.
Dunland just had
they're getting all new models. I think
Dunland are in the films, though. To be fair,
in the films, it's a beautiful new range. It's quite reasonably popular. You know, if you compare the amount you'll see Dunland versus the amount you'll see Canned.
They're not getting new models for the new film. I heard.
Well, presumably, yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Dunland going at the point they focus on the War of the Rohirrim would be a bit odd.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a plastic version of something, but I'm not a massive knowledge. I'm not a knowledge bank of the Hammer Hand Tale. But Ollie Rukanen says some of those more rare and niche models are the heart and soul of this game. Please, Games Workshop, don't delete them. Crying face. Alex, where is your soul?
I have a soul. I've told you all. I have
going to be ripped out of the game. Look at that.
I know it's very
sad. In his sunshine, you can see the tears in his eyes.
My priorities are different to Ollie's priorities. Your priorities. All I'm saying is they look shit. They always look shit, and they should fuck off. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Damien is defender of the piece here. I agree with Alex though. It's all clearly business driven. It's clearly not a creative decision. Is this defending Alex? I suspect the same is true of the army listing. I reckon it's a top down mandate. Maybe it is. Maybe it's simply that so far the last few years they've kept the range apace by rotating things in and out, made to orders, all that sort of stuff. But actually, in reality, they know that even when they do a made to order or cycle some stuff back in the range, there are only a few people buying half trolls and Watchers of Karna or whatever.
I think the depressing thing as well is that remember that they're having huge logistical difficulties. And this is not a defense of Games Workshop. I'm not be like, oh, we've poor massive £200 million a year corporation. They're trying to build a second factory. Sympathies on them.
They should just build the goddamn factory and make all.
Well, they should exactly. They should.
That would solve all the issues. But yeah,
I'm trying to pick up some like Blood Angels for 30k at the moment, and these are like brand new, but they're out in the last couple of years, and the entire range is out of stock. So I think the idea of I guess they're doing some prioritization that doesn't justify it. Nor is it, I'm not saying you should feel better about it because that's the reason. You absolutely shouldn't. I'm just saying that's why I think it's not being made by the creative teams.
It is tricky because obviously, and a lot of us will regularly say, anyone who sort of knows people who work in Games Workshop will know that I think some of this will probably have been quite difficult for the Middle Earth team to either hear or decide to do. Because I mean, for instance, I know Jay has a big Mahud army, but does that mean Mahud is probably is going to be a legacy thing because it's not really a sort of, I don't know. The camels, for example, they aren't in the films, so they're not going to be in that bit. Are they Armies of Middle Earth? Maybe, but sort of half trolls again. All these things like they're sort of semi-Tolkien-y, semi-not. So it's like, what's going to actually make it through this cull? Why cull? More models, more fun, says Morgan. I agree, but Gabriel does make a point. SKU bloat is a major issue for any business. Yeah, so just they're the like little scanner codes, aren't they? Like the model IDs or whatever they are. So having too much stuff to sell is a problem for businesses, yeah. Unless you have a really big factory, really big, like properly big.
And enough people.
As if you're the biggest miniature wargaming company in the world, kind of big, or...
Yeah, and one of the biggest companies in the UK. But yeah, that's true. Knowing Red Fox is worried that there'll be... Well, he says no. I assume they say knowing GWC legacy will be pointed poorly. I mean, we don't know, but
I tell you what, the funny
it won't change. I think is the thing. It won't change.
Well. So if anyone remembers, that's exactly what happened in the old world. It was slightly different, of course, because they're bringing the game back, but they brought it back with only about a third of the total factions or whatever it is, the exact proportion. A lot of them basically went straight to Legends, and they said, we're releasing this one set of rules, and it's only for you to go and try them out, and it's only for you to use your old armies. It's not actually for you to come to tournaments. They said, and I noticed an interesting change of wording, because they said they won't be tournament legal. That's the phrasing they used to always use. Same for 40k Legends, same for Age of Sigmar, whatever the hell they call their equivalent. Yeah. And of course, a huge uproar about it. And every time I have not yet found a tournament that won't allow you to bring Legends armies, and they go and they compete, and sometimes they do well, and sometimes they don't do very well. And Games Workshop, I don't know whether they've listened and picked up on that, because two things to note. First is they did get a points adjustment. They were included in the FAQ and errata, these Legends armies. And the second is their phrasing has obviously changed, and they're like, oh yeah, TOs can do whatever they want, which yes, of course they can, whether you give them permission to or not. I'm not saying they will get points adjusted. 40k Legend stuff never gets points adjusted, and maybe they'll be more like that. But this is the team that's responsible for the old world, and they did give them an adjustment. So you never know. I mean, maybe there'll be a decent community lobby behind, keeping an official update of.
I think that is worth considering, because at one point the Great British Hobbit League it had its sort of living FAQ for the game, and there were sort of common issues that had been sort of errated by the GVHL, and that, so some of these things were sort of kept alive and sort of tweaks as the sort of support for the game sort of started to dwindle. And I think I wouldn't be surprised to see a similar thing happen to keep some of those things into the Great British Hobbit League. I can't be sure, but it's the sort of thing I would like to think that other people on the management committee of the league would agree to. I'm on the committee. I would like to push for that. But whether that, how do you police that? I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? But I mean, Dan makes a good point. Welcome along to the stream. When we get to tourneys, it's awesome to see a rare army. No more. I don't think no more is the correct interpretation, but I think it may start. I think that's one of the things that the whole thing seems to be making more likely, is we're going to see more of those, armies that are in the legions and have the special rules and have the plastic box sets and all that sort of stuff. Maybe, but we're also probably going to get loads of cool new stuff, right? War in the Rohirrim, that'll be good.
Hopefully the film's good. So unconvinced. I do think that's the point. That for me, again, massive Philistine, wanting the new stuff rather than the old stuff. I'm like, if you need the cull to out with the old, in with the new, I say, crack on.
Yeah.
Loved.
I know.
It just feels to me like a loss in the family.
Yes.
I know that's an extreme example.
Interesting phrase. Yeah.
Interesting analogy. A lot of fans would be more excited over getting new sculpts for old profiles and an old profile making way for a new shiny profile. Yeah, I think that's probably true. A lot of fans would like that. I guess, again, Games Workshop aren't really... They're probably not thinking about us. They're thinking about, all right, there's this big new shiny movie coming out. How can we... Yeah, they don't care about us. We're already buying the stuff anyway. And
just money.
Yeah, but they want to get new people playing the game, and they see this as a great opportunity for that, right? And maybe it is. Maybe it's going to be massive again. Who knows? It could be a really great thing for the game and for Lord of the Rings in general. So let's see. Damien says again, Adam said a model for every profile when he took over Middle Earth back in 2016, but that was a long time ago. I don't think I've heard that since before COVID. Different frogs, different times. Yeah, that's true. That's a good phrase. Morgan says, half chosen a moment with rappelling lines, better not be legacy. Fair enough. Grimdork Future, I've heard they'll be sending GW representatives around to our houses to pry the older editions of the books from our salty little hands.
Send the Pilkingtons around there, wherever it was.
Yeah,
Wizards of the Coast did.
That's true. Frederick says most of the current...
the lawyer dig, because
Sorry?
Was it Grimdork who posted the lawyer dig?
Yes, it was, yes.
Implied that lawyers earn a lot of money, which most of them don't.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Frederick Schultz says most of the current Dunland stuff is GW invented. Yes, but it's also recent, right? It's Forge World. They're not going to...
Yeah, that's not
surely not. Voting? Don't know what that means. But anyway, welcome, Stephen. Battlecamper, sponsored by
I am
GW.
not still. If you want me to say unpleasant things about Games Workshop, I'm very happy to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure you would.
I feel, and sometimes I feel compelled to do that so that you know that it's balanced. All I'm saying is, if whatever it takes to get new fucking Royal Guard, because the pricing structure on Royal Guard and the shit heap quality of those sculpts is just frankly an insult.
The thing is, it's really strange because last week, Alex, you and I and Jack, who we were really excited, really positive about the new edition. You are. That's fine. But I'm hearing. I was hoping for new stuff to come into the game that I love. Now it sounds like they're going to take stuff away from the game that I love, and I don't know what the game will change to. So there's the potential for it not only having the no nostalgia, but it also might change the game too much.
This is like being in a 40k stream. It's hell on earth.
I know.
Oh my god, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect.
It was never perfect anyway. But anyway, Stephen says, I think it's time for people to drop a few £100 each on filling out their armies. Interesting. Mesbg doesn't really use factory capacity because most things are cast in metal. Yeah, but I think they're trying to move away from that, aren't they? So half trolls are specifically in the book, so there's maybe hope for them. That's interesting. Article sounded very SBG Legions with the faction army this year. A few people have been comparing it to the Legions of Middle Earth. Why people think Dunland are being cut? The starter set for the new edition is going to be Rohan versus Dunland. I think that's a good chance, personally. Yeah, so who knows? Love the Dunland models. Those simple rules is good for me. Always forget the strikes. Perhaps I'll win a few more games. Rohan versus Dunland or Eastling versus Canned, given the origins, or Rohan. Interesting. Jason Princess has GW's Lord of the Rings licensee that I believe was up for renewal end this year have been confirmed as renewed. This is lots of speculation that a lot of people seem to keep saying the license renewal and all this sort of stuff. They've never actually publicly said anything, from what I gather, about the license, except I know that vaguely they did renew a license a while back. But then there was this whole thing about this new big company, wasn't there? Was it?
But it seems very strange that they would go, because it takes a lot of time to produce these miniatures. To get a starter box together, that's the kind of thing that starts years in advance. It's going to be out this year. It'd be very strange for them to be like, all right, well, we'll produce it on the off chance we get the license renewed. It's not. It seems like an odd thing.
Yeah,
I think this is probably why we saw a gap of releases, and we saw this sort of what looks to be a schedule of Angmar releases for this autumn turn into Angmar spludged into the new edition. It sounds to me like actually what's happened is the license thing works with the new film, and they're like, well, we've already got a deal with New Line Cinema. They're making, or whoever it is, they're making this new film. It's got the same aesthetics as the film, so, and they're going, yeah, let's crack on. I don't think the licensing renewal or lack of renewal has anything to do with it. It's just to do with the film, isn't it? I don't know. This is all speculation, of course, but
sorry, I was reading a comment. Yeah, I wasn't listening. I was partially listening.
That's fine. You carry on partially listening. Michael says these legacies. The article said tournament organisers still absolutely welcome to allow them in their own independent tournaments. What do you think GBHL TOs might do here? I think, speaking for myself, I think that I will allow them. Certainly for the first year until they become I don't know, until they become old, or I don't know. It just who knows? It depends how balanced they are and how. I don't know. I think people will probably let them go, but there'll be probably some tournaments that won't. Who knows? How did you keep Jmacc quiet? That's a good question. You haven't said very much. You seem very sad, John. Is that right?
Yeah, a little bit subdued.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm sort of a bit ranty ravey, which I was expecting you to be.
I know,
that's the only reason I wasn't going to
different tact.
Yeah,
yeah, I suppose that's fair.
You did tell me off earlier.
I did. No, I was only joking, though, John.
You've got a nice new microphone and everything. You need to be making music, getting the words in.
Yeah, we can't hear the echo, the sort of sound echoing from around your room like we used to.
Yes, it did take 10 years for me to realise how to use my microphone. Thank you.
Brandon says you shouldn't be comparing 40k Legends and the old world Legends. Main studio and specialist game studio are very different with different design philosophies. Yeah, I think that is probably true. But I think it's interesting. I find it
it's
the most
interesting. Sorry, I just have to point out here, Brandon. What you did there is you said you shouldn't compare 40k Legends and old world Legends, and then made a direct comparison between the two. I think you need to, a bit more intellectual consistency there if you're going to comment on it.
Well, it's an old world Legends from AOS. Is that not what he's comparing it to?
No, the old world. I think he's saying the old world. He's saying so. He's saying you shouldn't compare the two. But only by comparing the two can he come to the conclusion that the two have very different design philosophies.
Oh Jesus, my brain just fucking misfired a few times there.
But yeah, I think they have two different. I think I know what he's getting at anyway. They do, but the only issue I have with it is that we don't really have. This is uncharted territory because the Games Workshop policy for these sort of
I got lawyered.
different design philosophy of the specialist game studios is that essentially in the past they've all been like kind of building on old games like Blood Bowl and Old World has been building on the Fantasy Battles, and this has been building on Lord of the Rings. So they're all kind of based on old things, and the whole thing has been the nostalgia for that old thing is what is fueling these games. And we will introduce the odd new bit, but you'll continue using your old thing, and we'll continue supporting the game. But now the fundamental shift is, I don't think they seem to be indicating that they're not going to support the old thing as much. Maybe
that makes me sad.
I mean, but Brendan, it is right. It is, despite me being a complete knob about it. He's not right yet. No, I throw my hands up to that. But that's the point I was making earlier, isn't it? It's the fact that the driving principle. I mean, 40K's never said our driving principle is to make this game work better in the tournament setting, but that is clearly and obviously what it's been about. But it seems like Mesbg is the opposite. Is, the driving principle, at least if what they say is to be believed, is to make it work better in a narrative setting, casual games.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, plastic can, says Stephen Bonner. Yeah, maybe, who knows? Can't wait to see Mechas and Lord of the Rings. Is that what that means?
Like Mechs taking the piss.
Grim Dog Future is concerned about a cease and desist from Alex. Scott Johnson says there's not that many GW tournaments compared to GVHL ones, though I think we'll see lots of legacy. I think you're totally right.
I agree.
Well. Yeah, Armies on the tabletop. Yeah. Jmacc nail out within 50 meters of skulls.
How did you find out about that?
Hamish.
Who do you think put that cage up around him?
Yeah. Take stuff away, not out, precious. Listen, GW, I'm going to pay £120 on your 4 new books. All I ask is asking to give every model I own a place in these books. Is that really too much to ask?
No, the books will be like out of what's the word? They'll be retconned within 2 months. So you buying them?
2 months if you're lucky.
I just hope list building can be fluffy and unique. I'm happy GW is supporting the game again. I just don't want it to feel structured and not have much variation within army list. I think that's the big thing that I think we all seem to agree on. I got lawyered, says Brandon Ridge. Did we cover whether Alex will be holding up his end of the wager with Jmacc? We did. We still don't agree with this. So let's give this a good airing out. So Jmacc, what did you actually bet? Because I thought
don't let him describe it. I'm going to find the text because he'll.
I believe you said that they're going to get rid of everything, didn't
That's exactly
everything that's not in the books.
He admitted it.
And the films.
He said, yes, they're going to get rid of everything. And that is emphatically not what they've done.
No.
Yeah, they've got rid of it.
Put it in a different book that's coming later. That's not getting rid of everything.
Yeah, but later. How long till Old World gets done? And it's been out for how long? Still waiting for Empire to be done.
You get your £10 when we get to the end of all recorded
time.
Thank you. And they've still not released a book.
How about I stab you? How does that sound?
I think that nobody should pay any money on this one. I don't think it's I think
they definitely should be paying me money on this
one.
The funny thing is how close I got to the correct. And how little you believed me.
No, it's not a good point. Don't validate him.
It is a good point. It is a good point. He pretty much got it. But
he didn't pretty much get it.
Why? I mean, there's a difference between pretty much getting it and getting it. There is a difference. But,
he set the parameters of the bet wrong. If he wanted it to be more lenient, fine, he set very narrow goalposts.
All right, Mr. Fucking terms and conditions. All right. You sit and read them all when you.
Order. We're descending into chaos. So I think we might have covered that a little bit now. But. So what was that? That was the kind of the.
I feel like he's airing out a bit further.
All of that, we sort of aired out the issues there. I guess to sum up, I'm sure lots of people will be still commenting below, and as you can see the string of people, and we've got 90 people watching as well, so thanks very, very much everyone for watching. But I guess it does. It just does feel a bit different from the previous announcements to me. I've always been very hopeful when we've had new announcements, and there's just a tinge of concern in this time. Which I think in the local group chat, Darren, who is one of my Entmoot patrons, said it's taken the wind out of the sails for the announcement of the new edition for him. And I think I agree. The ship's still moving, I'm still happy. I still like Lord of the Rings. I still like the Middle Earth strategy battle game, but I'm not kind of sailing
Propelled
towards
by
the horizon.
farts rather than nice fresh sea air.
Yeah,
It's a very, very
farts
John
rather than fresh sea air. Is that what you just said?
He said propelled by farts instead of fresh air.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that is true. Yeah, but yeah. So there's some good. So I'm just going to get quickly because there's a few people who've put comments that we might have touched on, but we might not have. Dan Maskell mentioned a lot earlier on. Do you feel licensing issues have left the team having to align more to the films? Legacy maybe GW created characters. I don't know. Maybe it does seem like they're. What I find strange is that they're specifically saying films, not films and books. So I guess that the only reason that would be is because they've got a book that's different.
The fact that they've specified it.
Yeah.
Well, no, but they said films will be out in the Armies of Lord of the Rings and Armies of the Hobbit, and things that aren't in the films are going to be out in the Armies of Middle Earth, which is different to the Legacy stuff. Legacy is not Armies of Middle Earth.
Yeah. No,
Am I going to have to rename my channel?
Jmacc,
you're going to be a Legacy YouTuber.
I think I guess it could be that this Legacy thing is for an old license so anything that was like from the wider Tolkien universe that isn't in the.
I think we're overthinking it. I really do. I think based on the way they've done it in every other game, it's going to be the stuff that just isn't selling very well. And I'm not saying that's right. I think that is a sad
stuff that
thing.
isn't selling well. That they stock consistently.
Again, I'm not defending. I'm not saying that that's a logical conclusion to draw. But I just think
this hasn't been in stock for 10 months.
I know. It's we've not sold any.
It's like how they got rid of all the train stations in the UK. Like they put the head of tarmac in charge and went, they put the connection time's wrong. Oh, we'll get rid of that line.
I think
that was a very political point. Let's carry on. Yes, my lord says, so long as everyone keeps using legacy models, I'll be happy. As FGW for trying to put them to bed. Also, hope army list flexibility stays outside for that. I like what I'm seeing. Yeah, I think.
Harry, are we not supposed to say fuck?
No, we're not really saying fuck today.
Okay, sorry.
So yeah, no, it's fine. I don't know why I said that.
Say what?
It feels worse when I'm reading it out than when it accidentally stumbles into my sentence. And I think that's probably sums up exactly what I think, except maybe I'm not quite so angry at GW for putting to bed as to use a fuck, but interesting.
Because we don't say fuck. That's right.
Yeah, as long as we don't say fuck, that's fine. Just read through the article from GW. I'm not really sure what to think. I'm bored between excited and very uneasy with things going forward. I think you and us all, actually. Scott says,
I think it's just because, like, as you said, it's the first time we've ever got news and gone, oh, wait a minute. Like, every time there's been news about Middle Earth, it's been, yes. Yummy. It has been pretty unanimously good news.
And I just looking at other games and the way they've gone, you can't draw parallels to this. It does concern.
I think there's no equivalence between this and 40k. I really don't.
I know, not 40k.
I'm not just say 40k. Said other games.
Oh, sorry. I assume when people say, "Oh, here was a game that was good and now shit," I'm just like, "Oh, that must be 40k."
yeah. But yeah, that's interesting. So Scott Coley, this is what about the intelligence I wanted to flag up from later. I'm looking forward to the arguments over Paladin took intelligence versus Balrog. That's interesting. I mean, I wonder what the scale would be. 1 to 5 is that clever enough? Gandalf being a 5.
1 to 69.
Very good. Very, very good.
It really isn't good, though, is it? That's
no.
Just basement.
Look at his little face as well. He's so proud of himself.
Yeah, he is. Brandon says, excited about this change. Rise of Angmar going immediately out of 8 is too bad, but at least they told us before we all bought the book. So actually, this is the last point I wanted to really touch on. Yeah, because this is weird. Like,
yeah,
but that is a fair point. They have at least said to us, "This is the last hurrah for the edition. We've screwed it." They wouldn't choose to do this, surely, and then tell us.
See, I think it's funny, isn't it? Because I'm afraid we appear to be opposites again. I mean, on almost everything tonight, we've disagreed. This is the one bit where I'm like, they get no credit for this. They don't get any credit. I think it would border on fraud to release it and then immediately scrap it. And they did do that before. There was I think it was the transition from 7th to 8th 40k. They released a codex really late in the edition. Everyone complained, and they were forced to offer refunds to every single person who'd bought it. So since then, when they've done this, they've had to say, yeah, we accept the fact that basically there's a new edition coming. So just FYI, this isn't going to be legitimate anymore. So if you go around punching children and then you get arrested for punching children, you don't get a pat on the back for not doing it going forward. I think literally they've managed to scrape over the lowest bar possible, and they don't get any kudos for that.
Yeah, I mean,
that's also why I'm not allowed near schools.
Stop punching children. I think for me,
also in that sentence was really disturbing.
Yeah, for me, I think maybe I can see the reason them doing this more because there's an opportunity to make something around the War of Rohirrim, and you could call that a financial money grab kind of opportunity, like, oh god, let's fill our boots while this movie is exciting, or you could see it as a, oh my god, this is cool, we want to get involved in this kind of opportunity. And I feel like it's more of the second, but it sounds like they've already printed these books. They've already got them literally sat on a shelf.
Right. That's exactly right.
And they're waiting for the miniatures to come out but they literally have. That's what I would bet. We're never going to find out the answer, so I'm quite happy to bet £1,000. But I genuinely think that they have.
There's going to be a really specific article on Warhammer Community about this tomorrow.
You can just see it, yeah. So we don't have these printed yet, but we're going to print them anyway. Yeah. It's like no, but or I just feel like that seems to be the only reason why you would do this. Yeah, I guess it sucks, but I feel like at least I don't have to buy it if I don't want to. I think I might buy it. I don't know.
Because you're an absolute mental case.
I don't know. Maybe just because
it's a collector. The collector in the internet.
I am. I have got all of them, and
just to go. Oh, that would have been nice. That would have been nice. Oh, look at that legendary legend. That would have been lovely.
It might depend if it comes out in the next couple of weeks.
They said. I mean,
so the article 4 months in it.
Yeah, the article says it's going to be a couple of months. They said you'll play out the last couple of months with it.
Yeah.
So I guess you if you're going to get to a tournament or even just some friendly games, you'll get to say that you played the Angmar Legions at the end of this edition.
The final draft.
But of course, then you'll have commenters saying, "Oh, it's just because you got that big BBC journalist money. I can afford to buy all the books." Not that it got to me. It didn't get to me.
The journalists are notoriously underpaid, and so are the ones, and particularly the ones at the lower levels of the BBC. But anyway, we'll get into these sorts of comments because it's just not going to go anywhere nice. And Dan Munn says, "Are Gulliver and the Shade in the bin because they're legacy?" Dan, I think yes.
We don't. We don't know.
I think yes.
Maybe.
I think yes.
You're basing that on.
I think yes. And I'm going to mute you so you can't say anything else.
Oh my god, he has as well.
I did briefly. No, I think the Shade is almost certainly going to be a legacy.
Oh, almost. Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
The Gulliver, maybe not, but
no,
I don't know. It's a weird model, isn't it? Because there must be something about that model that makes it hard to mold or make, because they just have never had it on for sale for years. So maybe, who knows?
It's a dickhead anyway.
It's unpleasant. Will Birder's Legendary Legion make it to new edition, do you think? No. I think they specifically say that, don't they? Unless it reappears.
They said the book isn't compatible, but presumably the answer has to be yes, because he's going to be in it, at least once you get the Armies of Middle Earth book. And they're all going to be in Legendary Legion format. So presumably they'll just be like, well, just...
I hope it's called Jmacc Armies. Still, you got free advertising for him.
John actually has
just
a channel
called
called Jmacc Armies of Middle Earth.
I did know.
So just call the book that.
Yeah.
So he's saying they've nicked his name.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
My first stage supplement that I was working on is just going right in the bin. I can't be arsed with that.
Don't make a supplement. That's great. You should definitely do that.
I'll wait for the new edition.
Could the Legacy Legions essentially be a more extensive army bonus by combining models outside of the Legion? You lose the bonus as army bonuses are now. Could be. It's a good, interesting idea. I mean, I like that people ask these questions as if we're going to answer, but I know we don't know anyway. But,
well, you answered the last one very confidently.
Yeah, well, I did. I mean, that one was true. Farm to Tabletop. Cool name. I guess you're a farmer. I think the Angmar supplement was in the works for a long time, but everything got held up by licensing, and they're releasing it before the new edition because they have done all the work to make it. Yeah, I don't know. The license. People keep saying licensing a lot. And I don't really know why licensing would make a lot of difference for all of this stuff.
It's a nice word to say.
It makes it sound like I think it adds a legitimacy to all of the stuff. It's like it can blame it all on licensing, but actually from the conversation I had with Jay Clare at Ardacon last year, so about a year ago today, he implied that he was royally pissed off by the scheduling from higher ups in Games Workshop.
Well,
and
I saw a very distressed post from what's his name? Who's the manager of the studio at the moment?
The studio?
The game. Who's the game manager? What's his name?
Oh, Rob Alderman.
Rob, sorry, yeah, Rob. So I saw a post on he posted on Facebook after the diorama, the Get Off the Road diorama came out, or was announced at least, during that live stream when it was like the last time the Middle Earth was on a live stream, and everyone got very upset because they said they hyped it up too much, and then of course they only got the Off the Road diorama.
Yes.
And Rob put a post that I thought was quite pained. Actually, I really felt for him, and it just said, in this post-COVID world, nothing lands when you want it to land. And I think he was basically saying that he'd have, of course, loved to have shown off a load more stuff, but it didn't really work out. And he was, went on to detail how much work went into it, and I think that the feedback had been quite painful. And I think that shows to me, I bet the stuff we're seeing now, I bet the Angmar stuff now is what he wanted in the 2023, was it 23, 22?
Yeah, I think that's almost certainly, it was probably due to arrive last year.
Yeah, and he's just had to sit there, watching the groups of people get more and more annoyed because there's nothing coming out, and it's just been caught in limbo.
I do feel for them.
But what causes that? Well, it's this post-COVID world. Most businesses have adapted quite well to it. So what's?
I don't think that's true. I think a lot of them have taken a lot. It's like all the shipping containers. There's a whole thing like a.
How does that stop? Like
you're printing books, like
because they don't want to announce things that they can't then fulfill.
Right. Okay.
And there was a huge.
I wasn't saying as I was just.
Yeah. No. I appreciate it. And I think they also there was something from that I read in an unreputable gaming, like one of these Wargamer Live kind of journals, and it was talking about drudged some stuff up from one of their financial statements, and when they were saying, well, they pivoted toward during COVID because it was more difficult to fulfill new things. They were basically but they became much more popular, and there was huge amounts of demand. They were just churning out the stuff that they had, and so announcements slowed down, and they were basically trying to fulfill orders for miniatures that were already out. And bear in mind that was a 2-year thing on and off, and it only ended sort of 2 years ago. So we've got to still be feeling the effects of it.
Yeah, and as I said at the start of this sort of bit, was that Jay implied to me that there was also, I mean, I think it might be unfair to say. Basically, he sort of implied that the higher ups almost didn't schedule the Middle Earth strategy battle game because of a cock up, and I'm not sure how true, or how well remembered. How well I'm remembering that, or how accurate that kind of assessment is, because it's not a very it's a very rumory type thing, but it also makes a bit of sense because there wasn't anything last year at all, and all of this stuff is now dropping at the same time. It does feel like, well, actually that does all kind of make sense, that they either forgot it, they couldn't schedule it in because of whatever reasons. But I think all this, the reason I've gotten to this, all of this licensing stuff that people keep talking about, I actually don't think it's made any difference personally, but I don't really know, only from snatch conversations with with rules writers who are incredibly tight-lipped about these stuff anyway. So interesting stuff. Where did we get to? So in the comments we had elite. So we talked about elite warriors going up in fight value. It'd be theory to make more profiles better, but not going for points may mean higher points games. Interesting. Andrew Cuthbert says some of us play this game for being able to expand and explore the world of Tolkien, to be able to include Erkenbrand as an alternative in scenarios, have Baragon fielded with Pippin, etc. Yeah, I agree, and I think that's what the Legends book is meant to be doing. But it's sad that it won't be happening straight away, but hopefully it will at some point. Same day FAQ, can't not be GW otherwise. Make Gandalf the White great again. Great shout. I would love that, actually.
Monsters. Make monsters great again.
Yeah, monsters are true. That's true. Are we getting a Sauron Legendary Legion? Says Doram Pumpumuo. Yes, basically. It's got Sauron as in the book. In the film. everything's going into Legendary Legions. Ergo, yes.
Last Alliance, Legendary Legion.
Yeah, maybe.
Confirmed.
Alex is hoping for a free starter box set. Says, John's acting like he wasn't told the rumors by someone else. Interesting. Does this evening ramble include a meme review section? I wish I'd remembered, but there is a bit that I want to show you later on, which is really interesting. And
later on, how long are we stuck here for?
Another 10 minutes at least. I'll just get actual bookie refusing to pay up there. I love it. Harry Goatleaf will be the only ruffian left. Lol, that's true. Jmacc's Legacies of Middle Earth, says Steve. Yeah. Not saying fuck. No. Fuck. Say fuck, Alex. Fuck GW, Alex. Go on. 1 to 10, like the other stats, I assume that's the intelligence. I think Legacy will be a small number of things like Corsair, Reavers, Feral Urukai, Morgul, Stalkers, and Armies of Middle Earth.
Feral Urukai, shout out.
Yeah, I have literally not seen a Feral Urukai this whole edition.
I've never seen one in the flesh.
They were a wash in the previous one. They were very good previously. Really? It's going to be out of date, but they are releasing a PDF with everything in the book for free when the new edition releases, I think. Yeah, that's true. They did say that about the new Angmar book. Just so you know, punching children is much worse.
Debatable.
Stop anti-child violence, child hater Alex. I'm still buying it to play.
I was saying that's a bad thing.
Brandon Rich.
I can't believe I don't get a right of reply.
No, we're just going to plow on. Child hater Alex, carry on. Rise of Angmar is going out because they can't do non-movie stuff in the next edition, otherwise it would have been removed. No, that's not that Belgoroth. That's not true. They specifically said they are doing non-movie stuff, but it will be in a separate book. It's that I think people are getting the legacy bit confused with the other bit, aren't they? There's a lot of
Middle Earth.
So there's going to be Armies of Lord of the Rings, Armies of the Hobbit, and Armies of Middle Earth. Armies of Middle Earth will be book stuff, and then legacy stuff is going to be other stuff that probably is GW invented. I think that's right, isn't it? That's what everyone else understands.
Armies of Middle Earth is a fully supported army. They just said they whether this is true or not. They say they just didn't have time to review all the profiles, so they focused on the film stuff, and that the non-film stuff will come out in a separate book.
That's what they said.
And they'll just happen. It just so happens
that
you've got to buy 2 books.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. I've gone from buying everything Rise of Angmar related to absolutely none of it, at least until the new edition drops. Yeah, I suppose if you're a competitive player, you won't buy any of the models until you know what the rules are, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense.
See, it's interesting, actually, after everything I've said tonight, even as a non-competitive player, I have found that I have I wasn't working on it. SPG stuff at the moment anyway, but I was thinking like, maybe I'll paint new bits and pieces for imps and things like this. And then I was like, actually, I have absolutely no motivation to do that until I know at least how I can structure an army, because I don't want to paint something that I then aren't going to be able to use.
Yeah, it's true. Belgroff says they don't deserve any credit, though they put themselves in that situation by taking as long as they do to release everything. Yeah, we talked about that at length, didn't we? So yeah, sorry, I'm catching up with comments that are about 10 minutes old now, so there's only a few left. Michael says non-film heroes and warriors from Rise of Angmar will be playable with the new edition ahead of the rest of that. He said they were going to release a PDF, didn't they? John Crowson, what's going to stop you playing Rise of Angmar? Yeah, okay, you can play all this. The whole community isn't going to shift to a new edition overnight. I think what we're likely to see is this is an interesting point, actually, because how quickly do you think people will shift to the new edition? Because the last edition change was there was basically a hangover for it, and we had, I can't remember exactly when the new edition was released, but I want to say it was September-y time-ish, something like that. But people were still playing the previous edition until the end of that year. And certainly in the GBHL league, I don't know what was the case elsewhere. And then by the January of the next year, everyone moved on to the new edition.
They all got it for Christmas.
Well, yeah, and that's that. I think that's simple. That it could be as simple as that. But I think most people will probably hang on to it and play a few games in while the new edition's out. Maybe still attend tournaments. But the fundamental thing is everyone will be reading the new book as soon as it comes out, and then it'll be very confusing to play the old rules while trying to learn the new ones. And it just doesn't happen. You either decide you're going to get on the bandwagon and play it, or you don't, and you're going to play it. And I think you're going to that niche of people who are going to stick with the old edition will be small and will carry on. Probably won't last that long. What do you guys think?
My plan is to turn up to events running the new edition rules without having read them, and just see what happens. That's basically how I turned up to Imps the first time when
Yeah, look how that went.
It's been great. My Mesbg
Had a great
career has landed me no podium positions ever,
Yes,
and probably I never will. So,
but endless
Get
joy.
fucking wrecked.
endless joy,
Are
genuinely.
you, John? Are you planning? Do you think currently, based on what you've seen, are you thinking you're going to stick with the old edition and bin off the new edition, or will you get the new edition and go for it?
I got wait and see. Wait and see.
Okay.
But the other option is just find an entirely different game.
Oh yeah.
Just
Definitely.
go to 10 mil.
Yeah, you do like
You're
10
obsessed. You're big on your 10 mil.
That did so well.
Yeah, you do like.
I did very much enjoy your 10 mil video. It's very good.
Thank you.
Good. Grimdog Future says, I fully endorse Harry's decision to buy the Angmar book. Thank you. There'll be a free. Yeah, we've mentioned that.
So I think it'll be all right. It depends what they do with the Legions and Norse building. I think that'll decide it for me.
Josh agrees that Gullivar is gone. Carnate says, where are the new Last Alliance plastics? Yeah.
Last Alliance plastic.
Surely GW isn't that tone deaf towards the community and remove favourites like Gully. Jay knows his community, right?
Is he a favourite?
I don't think he is a
fucking hate
favourite.
the
I think this might be a sarcastic comment. Jay hinted that Angmar was going to be the next supplement at Nova 2022, so I guess it was delayed in some way. There you go. That's an interesting point. When will the new armies from War of the Rohirrim fit into where? Technically not in films yet, but when the book comes out, they will be in films, right?
Yeah, because it's being timed around the.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It'd be very strange if they were like.
That's out in December, isn't it?
Yeah, it's December. And remember, they explicitly say in the article that this is about that this edition is focused on War of the Rohirrim. So it'd be weird to be like that and then like, oh, but they're not in it.
Yeah, Farms Tabletop's talking about the Embracer Group buying all the rights. Yeah, the Embracer Group buying the rights thing. I think that there was a whole thing about this ages ago where there was an implication that it didn't actually affect the Games Workshop license because it was a very separate license directly with the sort of Middle Earth enterprises and stuff. I don't know the details, but anyway, licensing. None of us actually know about.
Come on.
No. None of us actually know the.
No, I agree with you.
I don't know it, and I suspect most people don't either. So who knows? I think it could all be just GW switching areas. But anyway, okay, we're getting to the most recent stuff. Legacy and Legend easily to get confused. Yes. Okay. Oh, here we go. This is a good point. So early September 2018, a short while after Ardacon 2018, was the new edition. The last edition, September 2018, change. On the Saturday, I played my last one-day tournament with the old, and on the Sunday, Sam Page did a one-day with the new edition, so it was a clean overnight changeover. Interesting. I wonder what that was like. Michael, what was it? Can you remember were there lots of confusion?
Whiplash.
Yeah, I bet. That sorts that out. Can't wait to see new plastic into the new edition. 10 millimeters, making him look bigger. Very good. What do we reckon about the wound chart moving to a more 40k system? Oh, you're just baiting there. If they change the wounds chart, I'll be very annoyed. It's taken me ages to get that bloody wound chart remembered. And I've been playing it for years. We'll get the new edition, but I largely play narrative, so it won't be game-changing versus match. True. Don't worry, Alex. You may not have won a podium place, but you've won our hearts, which is handy, really, because lawyers do not have hearts.
I trained in a charity.
That's very good. Very good. Yes.
It was good, but it hurts. You know, it hurts in the gaping chasm where my heart should be.
Carnate says the full title of the film is The Lord of the Rings, The War in the Rohirrim. So new stuff from that will be the armies of the Lord of the Rings book. I'd imagine. I think you're probably right. So I want to point something out, and this is a great story. Genuinely, I know we're getting into sort of 10 o'clock, so it's the sort of time where people might be starting to get bored. But let me just show you this. I'm going to share screen with something I posted in the Great British Hobbit League Facebook page on April the 1st, 2023. So, as you can see here, I said, and this was a joke, I said, exclusive, next supplement confirmed. So I was out drinking with the Mesbg team last night, and they confirmed the next supplement to hit the shelves is The House of Theoden. Super cool sounding supplement looks at Theoden and his immediate relatives' journeys through the War of the Ring to coincide with the new War of the Rohirrim film. This insider source tells me that GW sees a great opportunity to focus on an underloved faction which needs extra updates on the slate and new character models, blah, blah, blah. So, interesting. Now, so obviously this is just a joke. This was just me making a joke. And most people saw it was an amusing joke because I thought lots of people at the time thought, yes, Lord of the Rings, the Rohan army was very much a sort of overly loved part of the Legendarians. But the most exciting and interesting bit about this for me, and I only realized this a bit later, was the very next day I was at a tournament and Dan Entwistle, Lord of the Rings writer, came over to me and sort of took me to one side and said, "Oh, I don't know whether, you know," it was a really strange conversation we had. He basically sort of said to me, "Oh, I don't know that you implying that the rules writers were getting drunk and were telling you, you know, your stories about the thing," and I was getting really, really confused by this whole sequence of conversation because Dan and I have had a good laugh over the years, and this is the first time I've ever had a sort of, I wouldn't say a crossword because he clearly was upset because he'd only just joined the Middle Earth team a few months ago, and I think he thought that I was implying that he'd spilt all these rumors, and I sort of said, "Oh yeah, but it's April the 1st. I made that clear in the post. I said specifically, you know, it'll all be released a year today on April the 1st, 2024.
Yeah.
So I just thought, and as soon when not long after all this started coming out, I thought maybe they did know about it back then.
Yeah.
2023, April 2023. What do we think? Because that conversation to me now screams out
yeah.
that actually he was really worried about it.
And they'll have definitely, of course, they'll have known. They'll have been planning. This will have been in the pipeline for a while now.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah,
I just love that. I just love that this happened.
You just guessed it, and you're like, "Fucking hell, he's got a mole."
Yeah, and I genuinely, I think that Dan was worried that some of his bosses would think that I had actually extracted some information from him and was making a joke about it, or maybe he didn't notice the April the 1st bit and was just so scared that
they seem to
of losing his job. Just he got it.
It's a no mercy kind of.
People are quite like suspectful to April the 1st though. Like people actually believed I was going to China to fucking star in a Chinese soap opera. People actually believed that. So many people like, "Oh, well done, John. Good on you." And I was like, "What the fuck? Are you actually?" I literally at the end of the video go, I know who watches the end of my content now. Go, "It's April Fools."
But I mean, I just think, I don't know. Maybe it's not as interesting to anyone else as it is to me, but I just find that that's mad.
That's
but
class.
I think it must have maybe it really unsettled them. And I hope Dan doesn't mind me sharing this story because
too late now.
You're gonna get another sly talk.
Yeah, no, but it's also, I think it also.
There's only 100 people who could tell him.
Yeah, no, that's true. Only 100. But I just think it's. I don't know what else other points to make about this, but it's genuinely. I think it now to me seems clear that they've been planning this for a year and a half or a year and a bit, at least. If we're judging that as being the reason that.
Absolutely, I mean, yeah.
That's so yeah. But that also therefore means that Angmar, as you suggest, as someone in the comments suggested, 2022. In November 22, they were suggesting that was going to be the next thing. That also lines up pretty much right with them. You know, maybe at the start of 2023, they're going, "Oh, right, we'll shelve Angmar. We're going to start working on this thing." Yeah, who knows? Anyway, so I think that covers a lot of the main points. I mean, I know this is an unsettling time for us hobbyists, and I hope that we've been, you know, graceful and calming influence for you, and that we haven't.
My buttons are undone. They can't be graceful at all.
I know. I was quite enjoying the buttons undone. But yeah, I mean, I think to sum up, everyone, what are your kind of overall thoughts now going into the next 3-4 months? You know, oh, sorry. The final news: there's no Middle Earth strategy battle game FAQ in August.
Oh no!
Oh, tragedy!
Another thing I don't have to learn.
Another 2 things changed.
But how are you feeling? Like out of it, can we do 2 out of 10s? Last week, out of 10, how excited were you about the future of the Middle Earth strategy back game, John?
Oh, last week. Oh,
Yeah,
I,
when it came out.
I already knew what was happening.
Yeah, but did you know? Did you know, or did you just?
I was pretty certain on it because he'd been right about every single other thing. Every single other thing.
He just wasn't right about this.
Well, pretty much. I want my turn.
There's a very there's a very, very big difference between me stealing your car and borrowing your car. That's how wrong he was.
I don't think so.
Just wrong.
Last week I was a bit like, oh, it's going to be shite, but I don't know. I feel a bit better actually. I feel better this week.
I feel better.
This week than last, Alex.
I reckon last week I was.
As Alex has correctly pointed out, I thought everything was going.
He thought it was going.
It's keeping.
I was worried that they were going to.
In another book. Sorry.
I mean, this time last week they could have announced that there was going to be some dramatic sweeping changes to the core rules and the mechanics were going to work differently, and they were going to. It could have been a wildly different game. We know that's not true. We know that that substantively the mechanics are going to stay. Intelligence is a really cool change. The only one I don't like is the way that armies are built. I'm a bit concerned about that, but otherwise I know that the core mechanics of the game are going to be the same. Yeah. Okay. I'm still a bit
worried though. Like, it really depends what the next few announcements are. For me,
do you think we're going to get?
I'm also not worried because I could just play. I've got loads of other games I can play. So
yeah, I mean, for me, I think maybe it is a bit more of a worry because this is the only game I play at the moment. I mean, I could play others, but I do.
I think I play really a million different games. So I'm alright.
I mean, I do. Yeah, I play for a few. Mesbg is very, very good. I don't want it to go anywhere. I do feel very.
I've got a whole fucking channel dedicated to it. So.
Yeah. Interesting. So you're sorry. Just to summarize, John, you're less scared than you were last week. Alex, you're more scared than you were last week. Less scared, less sort of worried. Less excited, more excited.
I think about on par. There are things that I don't like in this announcement, but I'm also very relieved that there aren't going to be more swinging changes. That's not a phrase. I think
it's swinging, isn't it?
Swinging, that's the one. Yeah, I had my brain dropped to the G.
Sorry, what?
Well, no, it had the G, but it just put it in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that I just
Frederick says, "Stop it, Alex. First he's punching children, now he's stealing cars. How are you still a lawyer?" It's true.
I know how not to get caught. I think that there's still a huge amount we don't know. But when you look back at the trend of how they make announcements with other games, they do a lot of this like expectation management. So when
because they have to, they shouldn't have to.
I'm not talking about the book. I'm not talking about like the fact that they're not going to. It's not going to be out for very long before it's defunct. I'm talking about in the rules as well, and they seem to want to push you into the freezing cold pool, and rather than acclimatize you slowly and be like, look, this is the big stuff that's changing. So I expect we've heard about the biggest changes. So for example, when
there can't be any bigger changes, can there?
We can there. I think you with the so again. I know I'm more fondly disposed toward 40k than you. So this might not mean, but when they went from 9th to 10th in 40k, they were like, oh, just basically get used to the idea that there is going to be no psychic at all anymore. That's just not a thing really anymore. It's now just weapons and profiles in the list, and that was one of the big kind of other things. And that I was like, fuck that. Like. Really, really shit.
How did they all go? Yeah, I don't get to that.
The point is that's what I feared, was there'd be something like that. Some big like, oh, you guys should just know. I don't know.
We're getting rid of might.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Heroic actions, we just think they're not how we want the game to work. They're just gone. And I'd be like, piss. And I would come into the school ready to rant and rave, but actually, I feel like the changes have been very measured, and even the ones that I'm not sure about or feel like I don't like, I still want to reserve judgment because they might make them work in a way that I find quite appealing. I don't know yet.
Interesting. So Frederick's saying last week he felt 8 out of 10, now he's 5 out of 10. Dan's 9 out of 10 last week, this week 5 out of 10. Morgan was 9 out of 10 last week, now he's scared out of 10.
Oh no! Oh god!
I like that. That's pretty good. 9 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. So Damien,
I think
Damien's
like
not gone with the thing. Go on. John?
No, I was going to say, I think all the core mechanic changes I actually really like and agree with.
It's the list building that I can see.
That's what I'm scared of.
That is the big worry.
I don't think it's going to change my enjoyment of the game at all, but I think the competitive tournament crowd will find it less enjoyable. I think there's truth in that, Damien. Sympathise with second age what if stuff, though. Yeah, agree. But I mean, look, there are plenty of tournaments like the one that Damien runs, 7 Stones, which will absolutely still allow that sort of stuff, I would guess. I'm not going to assume that Damien will do that, but if you come up with some cool stuff that works, then why not?
I've got an absolutely incredible idea for next year.
There you go. MN Werewolf says last week 7 out of 10, now 7 out of 10, but for different reasons. Great. The Farm to Table really trust the MSBG team, I assume you mean. I think that this new edition will be a positive thing. It's sad a few profiles are being retired. I hope TOs allow legend stuff. I think they will. If you listen closely, you can hear Rob Alderman holding up cue cards every time Alex speaks. I love this. This is great.
I feel like this. I feel
I'm not quite sure how this has happened, but it's quite.
I feel like I know. I'm usually the problem is I usually come on these things, and I usually worry people would think that I'm like a moany git. I feel like I need to say some bad things about Games Workshop in order to.
Yeah, I get that one. Sometimes that's why we try to be a bit more positive.
I think to summarize for myself, I think I'm very much in the camp of the sort of the 9 out of 10 to the scared out of 10, or the 9 out of 10 to the 5 out of 10. Maybe
Harry.
not 5. I think maybe 7 or 8, but definitely 9 out of 10 to scared out of 10.
Sorry.
No, yeah. I don't know. I just because I think Damien's alluded to it. The competitive gaming side of it is a big part of the way I consume it. I love the stories. I love the films, and I'm obsessed with the kind of recreating those moments. But the fundamental reason I continue playing this is the competitive game is interesting and is fun to play. I'm not worried that the game is going to change much, but I am worried that all I'm going to end up doing is go to a tournament where I'm going to play 5 Riders of Theoden lists and 5 Defenders of Helm's Deep, or
10 games at an event. Wow. Okay.
You know what I mean? But like, it would be quite a long event. But because unless they pull off a hell of a feat, making all of these legendary legions on a sort of similar parity straight away. I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
I agree. Okay, because I don't want to be accused of reading off Rob Alderman's cue cards as nice a man as he is. I have said that that's the bit that I find the most difficult to get my head around. And there is a worry in the way that it's worded on the website, because it says many of the legions will still allow you to be flexible and to create new lists, implying that there was going to be some, and there are some now, of course, some like Fangorn, for example, where there's only one way to play it. But at least then we've got the allies matrix, and you can choose to sacrifice their army bonus in order to ally them with other things. If it's like if there's only one Ent legion and it's a assault on Isengard, and it's just the Ents, and it's like, well, there you go, you're playing Ents as Ents now, and go fuck yourself, kind of thing. I'll be very, very upset indeed. As just like you, I only play competitively. That's not because I'm a competitive person, but it's because that's how I like to experience any war game, is through going. Stop putting them on the screen.
Sorry, I know I was distracting you. Yeah, go on.
So is because that's how I enjoy to experience. That's how I like to enjoy wargaming, is by going and meeting new people and playing new people, etc., etc. I'm just editing a game at the moment from your Tis a Gathering tournaments, which was on a fantastic event, and it was on Chris Cooper's board, and it was this sort of
Greyhaven
scenario where we had it's Greyhavens, and we did the scenario where the Wood Elves had to escape on a ship, and the orcs and spiders and whatever were trying to stop them. And one of the things I say in the video is it's incredible. It is the only war game I know where you could take what is essentially the physics engine of the game, the structure of the game, put it around something completely new and unintended, i.e. sailing ships and fighting around ships, and it could feel incredibly natural and incredibly organic. It felt like it just worked. And that's the amazing thing about MESBG, is it's such a comprehensive rule set, but such an intuitive rule set that it works flexibly. And so seems incredibly stupid and short-sighted for them to take that rule set and try to narrow down the scope in which you can apply it and make you play it in a particular way. So that is extremely frustrating. And if it does transpire to be to work in the way that we have discussed the way that they might, that would be extremely frustrating, and I wouldn't enjoy that at all.
Yeah.
Stop putting them on screen, Harry! Stop putting them on screen!
Alex, will you throw GW into the fire? And, not buying it, Alex. Think you're still on the take. Very good. Very good. Lovely stuff. Damien makes actually a very good point in the comments. So you're kidding, right? I genuinely think the biggest impact on my hobby will be 7 stones. What do we do? An army list that can't ally with another army list each? One army list? Madness. Yeah, actually. And also, when you create a situation where only thematic armies exist in the game, where you literally cannot do those sweaty kind of non-thematic tournaments, non-thematic lists, means everything that is really super thematic is actually also very good. So those thematic tournaments now become like full of people playing really good lists. And
that's a very, very good point.
It's actually really hard to compute that, isn't it?
Very good point. And of course, the beauty of 7 stones is another excellent example. When I do that video, which will be next, I'm very much looking forward to it. We've got so much to choose from in terms of like showing off what 7 stones is about. And for anyone who doesn't know, it's hyper fluffy tournaments, and it's the not just in MESBG, but in any war game, it's the event where I think it's fair to say people go the furthest to get into the.
A guy got tattoos of this.
A guy got not a little tattoo, a full back tattoo of 7 stones, and people go around half naked for the entire event in order to make not just for the lols, but because that's their costume.
John does that at most events anyway.
Yeah, and I mean that's the only reason I go to events with John. That's it's a very attractive proposition, but that's because the rule set allows you to do that. I mean, it embodies. Hobbying is a creative endeavor. This isn't like playing a video game where which is that, and there's nothing wrong with video games. Of course, I play a lot of video games, but it's you're engaging in the world in a very different way. And I just don't understand why the games designers would try and be prescriptive.
And let's hope they don't. Let's hope they don't be prescriptive. So, thank you. I think let's leave it there. I think that's quite a positive note to end on.
That's the most negative I've been all night.
No, I think that's pretty positive. It's creative. It's ending on a creative endeavor. I think what the one thing I would say is, I do generally have faith in. Maybe it's just because I know them, but I do have faith in the Middle Earth team. I think Jay has been he hasn't in the last couple of years, to be fair, but he is a very competitive player and he knows how to play the game well. He knows the rules inside out. I think he knows how to improve them, and he also wants to change it so that
master of battle.
Yeah. He knows the competitive. I think he understands the competitive game, so I'd like to think that. And I also think that Rob is coming from a good place as well in terms of. He really, really loves this system. I mean, he's played it for a very long time. I think they're good guys, and I hope that they'll do it well and not do us dirty. But we'll have to wait and see. And
what if it's not up to them though? What happens if it's people above them?
Well, that's the issue, isn't it?
I think they will be able to pull or shift the ship in the right direction, even if they're not necessarily being told which direction, if that I don't know. I think they'll be able to negotiate it through a difficult passage.
Particularly if they're not, it's interesting, isn't it? You go high enough up the chain, excuse me, and you get to a point presumably where they don't really, they can say, I'm sure you can get to a senior level of management in Games Workshop where they can say, you've got to streamline this. That's your mandate. And you deliver them a product, and they don't know whether it's been streamlined or not because they don't understand the last iteration of the game. They don't understand the new iteration of the game.
All they will probably see is that there are fewer SKUs on the website, and the things that they're making are making money or whatever. Interesting though. I think most people are just sort of finalizing things. Do you think one last thing? Do you think we'll see more announcements next week? We've had two. Well, not just we've had 3 in 2 weeks. We had the Rise of Angmar on Thursday lunchtime. The new Middle Earth strategy battle game announced Thursday afternoon, and now we've got this thing. Do you think we're going to get a drip feed of new things for the next few weeks until we get something substantial? I don't know, September. I'm vaguely.
If we take one of the other niche games like Horus Heresy, they did Heresy Thursday for nearly a year. They, both before and after the game launched, it was constant, huge numbers of announcements, like really surprising ones as well, like complete refresh of the plastic miniatures. So I'm hoping it's something like that. We're gonna, they could do like weekly faction focuses, like they did for Sigmar and 40k,
and they did that for the old world, didn't they, as well?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Old World, we got loads of announcements in quite short order. I think that the critical point is when they tell you what month it's going to be released in. That seems to be when they'll be like, you'll be able to get your hands on this in December, and then you seem to get a real drumbeat of stuff coming through.
Yeah, they haven't. Although they've sort of said that the movie. I mean, we know that they're going to coincide with this movie, and this movie is due in the second weekend of September, isn't it?
Yeah.
13th or something like that.
Somewhat.
So, it feels logically that the next edition will start then. I guess the only unknown thing is how soon. I'd imagine they want to push the Angmar book out now, so that it gets as much use in this edition as it possibly can.
Maybe we'll see it next weekend.
I'd be surprised if it comes that quickly, but it could be. They have teased all of the models basically.
Yeah. What's left to show? Can I ask a question? What do you guys think they would do in the event that the film was delayed, which obviously is not an uncommon occurrence?
Because it was unlikely at this stage, though, isn't it?
I don't think so. They do get pushed back. So because there's quite so that was one thing actually.
I think they really want the film out to be December though, because it's like ties in with all the Lord of the Rings originals.
Yeah,
that's true. And they want it to be a Christmas film, not a Christmas film, a film that people watch over the Christmas break. But
a Christmas moment.
The reason I asked is because I thought it was quite funny that when I think it was Halo Infinite, the video game was due to be released, and they put that at the 11th hour, they pushed it back by a full year. By a year. But a lot of the licensed products released anyway. So like the Lego sets and things released anyway. So people were piecing together what was going to happen in the game from the Lego sets.
I remember there was a similar thing with the Hobbit, wasn't there? The Hobbit films, they had like some weird stuff with like Bolg and Golb and all the whatever they were, the Azogs, they're all kind of the wrong characters because they changed everything halfway through. So I guess it's not unheard of. But
the Keeper of the Dungeon was Bolg, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was Bolg originally. That was the Bolg design, and then they didn't like the Bolg. They didn't like that design, so they just kept him, but called him something else. So maybe. I just don't. I think at this point, I don't know. They've not ramped the promo in other ways. Like we had that big long interview with Philippa Boyens and the other writers and stuff like that.
What we've not had yet is a trailer.
Yeah, we have had trailers.
For the War in Rohirrim.
Well, it depends what you got, like a teaser trailer and a.
We've had stills, so we've had that little teaser. Yeah, we've not actually had a proper trailer.
No, that's true. I suppose it could be a while. But
because I wondered. Sorry, I don't know. You're trying to end the cast.
No, that's a good point. Though I don't know.
I did wonder whether one of the delays was because of the writer's strike. Yeah. Sorry, John.
I would say there's over 100 people still watching. Surprisingly.
Oh, Harry does puts on some very good quality some guests. So
yes, thank you. But who knows? But I still think we're likely to see a Christmas box set and a probably September the 1st or thereabouts Angmar thing. I think it's going to be bam now. Like they're going to have to crack on, and because they'll have said to the bosses, look, this book's going to be the worst selling book that we ever had because it's already printed, it's gone, but we're already going to get this new edition. So the longer people have to play with it, the longer it'll last. So But anyway.
And of course, when the new box set does come out of Christmas, Battlecamper would definitely do a big Christmas road trip, painting it all up. That'll be worth subscribing for, so you know when it's when it's out. Yeah.
Are you trying to get GW to send you a free thing? Is that what you're doing right now?
Jmacc Armies of Middle Earth. Jmacc Armies of Middle Earth.
I can see it. I can see. You can see Rob working the strings there.
Look, I've been saying nice things all for like 2 hours now. That deserves a box set.
Yeah, fair enough. Just a quick sum up of the comment. So we'll wrap up in a by half past. Say hi to the bunny in Jmacc's background. Let's see the bunny. Where is bunny? I can't see. I can see a dirty cup.
Having a pish.
Good. Red Fox says, if not, we just show up to Warhammer World and bring a cake. I can't remember what that was in reference to. Hopefully, we see clarifications next week to the causes of worry from this week. I'd like to think that's why I was hoping for another comment this week. 3 months till new edition, says Stephen. Yeah, fair about right. At least we're all agreed that Alex has been absolutely out of control this evening since Grimdark Future. Scandal, half-naked lawyer driving around in stolen car punching children. I think that, yes, that's Alex. Yeah. Factions for new editions, Rohan, Gondor, Mordor, Kant, Dunland. I think, Stephen, you know more than you're letting on.
There's Alex.
Gulliver, wasn't there a September pre-order for one of the starter boxes released in September? I think that was the Osgiliath box set. I think they announced that quite a long time in advance before it was released. So, yes, it could be that. Now's the time to get some games in with any models you're worried are going to go. Yeah. Keeper of the Bolg General. Yeah. Even though the Keeper is a much better design than Bolg, I totally agree. I love that model as well. First, Azog. Yeah, we've talked about that. Cast list up. What's that? Oh, yeah, there is a cast list up. Yeah. Well, they've made it. They just might not have edited it all yet. But then with animation, you do the voicing first and then you draw it all afterwards, don't you, usually? Is that right? Or they kind of...
I'm pretty sure that's right.
Rob dressed as a dog.
Yeah. Guys, isn't this new film animated? How does that translate to the miniaturized other age based on live action films? I think because it's wetter, I don't think it'll make any difference at all. Because it's wetter, but making both the consistent designs across both films. Just because something is hand drawn doesn't mean like the designs for all the clothes
they do have to. I mean, because it's not the style of the animation is it's a bit animated, it's quite flat. They are going to have to do quite a lot of interpretation to make them into 3D.
Well, yeah, but they do that with the Lord of the Rings stuff, didn't they? Because like,
no, because the actors have faces, so
the
actors have got real faces. And they try and imitate their faces in 3D models, whereas
but like animated, like you're implying that these are like sort of flat animated films that are just walking along from left to right. They move their heads and stuff like that. There'll be like literally millions of individual frames of images for them to look at.
I know, but look at the animation style for
I'm not saying. Yeah, I'm not saying it's
going to be. I'm not having a go. I'm just saying it's going
to
be.
You are having a go. Look at you, just defending GW, and then just going straight into this. That I don't know. There'll be a level of interpretation, I suppose. I don't really. But I don't think it'll make much difference personally. But I'm happy to be corrected if there's such a thing.
I think you should put a picture up. Put one.
Yeah, I'm just getting him on. Hold on. Yeah. So this. I mean, look, there's a lot of detail on that.
I'm just saying that's going to be an interesting exercise to turn that into a 3D render that matches the rest of the range, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I suppose it's different. But I mean I guess that sort of thing, because there's a lot of deep, but that
because when you I don't know whether you've seen a real human's face recently, but they tend to have like cheeks and like their skull has like sort of a shape to it.
Yeah, but
it's really interesting.
I don't think.
Yeah, but when
round is a shape.
Round is a shape. Yeah, I see your point, but I still think like there's a lot of detail on the costumes and stuff, so there might be a bit of creativity involved. So
just an interesting exercise. God, everything's a fucking argument this evening, isn't it? Jesus. My blood pressure is through the roof.
Interesting point though. I guess it's a bit harder than it is. That's weirdly little info of the war where there is weirdly little info. Yeah, okay. There's a big long interview where they talk a lot about it. Just Google Philippa Boyne's interview, but where we're him is really good. GW branded camper van on the way. Very good. Alex has already had breakfast with Rob every weekend. Dog. It's Rob dressed as dog. That's good. That's good. They've got Iro Win. I don't know who that is. The stills are flat. I think all pictures are flat, but yes. I see what you're getting at. The anime, it's anime which voice acting tends to come a bit later on, actually. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Good question to raise with GW Sculptors. Was there a difference between live action and animation sources? I don't know. But I suppose these people will be actors in real life, so they might go, well, say Brian Cox.
Faces.
Yeah, like Brian Cox is Helm Hammerhand, right? Or something like that.
Sometimes the actor looks very different to how the character's supposed to look.
Yeah, but like they could do that. I don't know. I don't know.
No, you don't. That's becoming painfully clear.
Yeah, I know. It's not like 3D animation where actors' performance is the basis. True. Very different. Harry, remember your Perry interview. You can't touch a 2D screen, but you can touch a real costume or armor set. Yeah, okay. But the Perry twins didn't go with a view to looking at and touching the swords to then know how to sculpt them. They went basically as like a
chat has turned
come and meet
on
the
you,
people, see
hasn't
what's
it?
going on. Yeah, they already have.
Good on you guys, chat.
I say let's prematurely boycott Alex just in case the new edition might be bad. We're back again.
I retract my previous statement.
Oh no, so Alex is worried about the range matching. I thought it was okay to have disparate aesthetics. Yeah, it's great. Is Alex just in fact Rob in a mask? Has anybody seen them in the same room? That is the question. Way more room for interpretation of faces, costumes, armor, etc. But I don't think it will actually be much of a problem. I agree. Hot take of the night: actors have faces. Says Mark. Research flat pictures. Will Helm talk about physics at all? That's different. Brian Cox. Alex.
Just so I think we need to go back to that last comment. There's a lot to interpret that.
Alex. Yeah.
But go back.
You're
it's
right.
Alex from the commenter Pete.
Oh yeah, Pete was the one who asked about the things. Anyway, so thank you everyone for joining us. For John and Alex for joining us as well. It's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully there'll be more news next week. Maybe we'll be back next week. Maybe we won't. It might be a different roster of faces because we don't want to have a GW shill here every week. So
maybe I'll host the stream on my fucking channel next week.
Yeah, we'll have one with Blackjack.
John, for the next announcement, do you want to come on Battlecamper? We'll do a stream. Everyone, the next stream will be on Battlecamper.
Yeah, thanks very much. We'll mute them both. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there we go. We'll see who has the power. Anyway, greetings. Thanks very much for watching, everyone, and it's been a pleasure. Hopefully we've exercised some demons about the new edition, and if not, there's probably plenty more news to come. So thank you for watching. Bye, everyone. Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.